Okay, how about that? Can you hear me now? Hopefully you can hear me now. Oh my goodness. Sorry. Thank you, Jennifer, for letting me know. Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for joining. Okay, well, we'll start over again. I am Michelle Solis from This Must Be Ink. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! With an echo. Oh gosh, what's happening? Hang on. I set it up the same way every time, and now it looks like my phone might not be connected. Oh goodness. Hang on. Oh, I set it up the same way every time, and something inevitably will go wrong. Okay, I think we might be coming back in. Oh, the echo was here. Okay, but you made me look at my phone and realize that it was not connected anymore. Add this in here. Okay. And this is my Stamp and Flip One Sheet Wonder workshop. Hi, Anne. Thanks for joining. Okay, so I started this Stamp and Flip because I have a lot of old paper. In fact, we're using some old paper tonight, and I wanted to do a one sheet wonder, but I never can decide. I feel bad when I just use one side and then the other side is also so pretty. So what we decided to do was I'm going to split the paper in half. And so we'll have two 6x6 pieces, and we'll make a set of cards with one side, and then you'll make another set of cards with the opposite side of the paper. So that's where that idea came from. If you haven't joined me before, what I'm going to do is show you some of the sample cards that I made, and then we'll do a set of cards together, and usually some of those will be the ones that have something different about them. Okay, so let me now, hopefully this is going to work. Let's get this camera down over here. There we go. All right, we do this without knocking over my water. Okay. Sorry, I thought I had this all set up and then we had some technical difficulties there. But we're going to make this happen. All right, so I think that should be good. All right, get a little bit more light going on. Okay. All right, so this is the template. Now the template can be found on the Crafty Kraken Create page. Up at the top of the page, you'll see files, and you should be able to go in there and get all of the templates from all of the one sheet wonders that I've done. I've only done 16. This is number 17. And so this is, again, 6 by 12. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with one 12 by 12 piece of paper. We're going to cut it in half, and then we're going to cut that to these measurements. All right, but I'm going to show you the samples first. So these samples I made with a set of paper. I want to call it Ocean Friends. Let me see. Friends of the Ocean. I was close. And so that paper has some beautiful colors in it. So Calypso Coral, this is Melon Mambo, So this was the front side of the paper. So this was using an A piece, which is a 5 by 3 3/4 inch piece. And then I put a mat behind that. This one also used an A piece, but I combined it with a B piece in the middle here, and then just added a little strip of cardstock with my sentiment. And this one is using one of the C pieces, and I combined it here with the D piece. And this is using the second C piece just on its own. So then we flipped the paper over, and this is the other side of that designer series paper. So this is the A piece, that large A piece. And I just cut out a circle from this square that I had laying around and made that into a frame for my sentiment. And this was a second A piece combined again with a B piece. And then this is your C combined with a D piece. So just giving you some ideas of what you can do with those pieces. That is not part of my set at all. And then this is the other C piece. Instead of going portrait this time, we did landscape. And again, added a little strip of cardstock there. Okay, so that was one set that I made. And that was fairly simple for those of you that don't have a lot of supplies. And then I stepped it up a little bit and did some that have a little bit more going on with some die cutting. So this was a second piece from that same Friends of the Ocean paper. And I combined this with the Friends of the Ocean, no, I think it's Ocean Friends bundle. So it was the stamp set and dies. So this A piece, I just added a panel on the middle here with my sentiment and then used some dies, stamping and dies from that set. This one is an A piece, and I created a little card that goes on the front of it. So it opens and says, "Thanks so much." And then it's a regular card, so you can add a sentiment inside. Oh, sorry. So this was an A piece and the little D piece. Then this is one of the C pieces, just oriented to the side. And then another C piece, this time in the middle, with a mat that's a little bit smaller than the piece, just for a little bit of interest there. And then this was the B piece. Again, I did landscape this time, and I just matted that piece and put it in the middle and embossed this. So you get a landscape card that way. And then the back of the paper was this kind of wavy squiggle. So this time I combined it with the, relax, what's it called? This is one of the new sets that has just come out, and I can't remember the name of it. Hang on. I'm going to find it. Or not. I need to put these in alphabetical order so that I can find them when I need them. Here it is. Splash and Relax. But that wouldn't help me if I couldn't remember the name of it, right? Well, anyway, so this was the Splash and Relax. So this was combining some old paper with one of the new sets that came out. All right, so this is again an A piece, and then I just made a frame with my Stylish Shapes dies for my sentiment there. Another A piece, here's that orange circle that I cut out and used for this sentiment, and then some dies from the Splash and Relax. And then this one, I decided to use some coordinating colors for this one. Instead of going kind of monochrome, I decided to use some what is the word I'm trying to say? Complementary colors for that one. And then we've got this one with a C piece and some little die cuts from that set. And then your second C piece, this time with a little bit of a strip in there of some color. And then the last one, I did a little tag with that little D piece. It's perfect to fit on a little tag. Okay, so those were the samples that I created. All of those are in a PDF that you can also find on the Crafty Kraken Create page. And all the measurements for those cards, all the mats, the card bases and the mats, all the measurements are on that PDF. Okay, so here is the template. So here's my paper that we're using tonight. This is, as I said, an old piece, and this is called, what is this called? Waves of the Ocean. I have almost an entire pack of this paper. Shame on me. I need to use this up. All right, so this, I love this. This is kind of like, it looks like an acrylic pour, doesn't it? But really cool wave effect there. So again, I thought it would be fun to pull out one of the sets that is older. This is my Friendly Fins. So I like pulling out old stuff and using it because otherwise it just sits on the shelf and collects dust. So this is the set that we'll be using tonight. All right, so here's the template. So what we're going to do first is we're going to cut this piece of designer series paper in half. So we're going to cut it right down the middle at 6 inches. And we're going to put one piece aside because we're going to make cards with the back piece. But tonight we're going to use this side, which is all these blues. All right, so the cutting, you're going to cut it right. This is going to be your first cut right down at 3 3/4 of an inch. So all the way down at 3 3/4. Put this strip aside. Then what we're going to do is we're going to cut it 5 inches, 5 inches, and 2 inches. So you're going to turn it and you're going to cut it at 5 inches. And then you're going to cut it again at 5 inches. And those are going to be your 2 A pieces. And then what you'll be left over is the B piece. So that's going to be 2 inches by 3 3/4. Okay, so then for the other strip, which should be 2 1/4 inches, we're going to turn that and we'll cut it at 5 1/4, sorry. 5 1/4. And then 5 1/4 again. And that is going to be your 2 C pieces. And then you'll be left with this little D piece, which is 1 1/2 by 2 1/4. Okay, so those are the pieces that you will use to create your cards. So tonight, what I thought I would show you are some of the cards that have some a little bit different pieces. All right, so I've already pre-stamped and die cut some images from that set, just for the sake of going a little bit faster. Okay, so this is a card base that's 5 1/2 by 8 1/2. Hi, Jeanne, thanks for popping in. Oh, thanks. I'm glad you like the cards. Okay, so this is a card base that's 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored at 4 1/4. And so this, we're going to use one of our A pieces. And I've made us a mat that is 5 1/4 by 4. So we'll just mat that up. And you can see this pretty color on the other side that I'm also looking forward to using. I think that's got some petal pink on the other side. Whoops, I just went crooked there. That is the beauty of the liquid glue, is you can save it and move it back. Gives you a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, so we're going to just put this right on the front of the card. I'm already sticky on card 1. Okay, so that's going to go right on the front there. And then this is the card that I had this little panel, and we just put our sentiment here on this little panel. So what have I got tonight? I have got, we can do, oh, I don't think I pulled out Here's to You. Let's do that. Let me grab another block. Because I want a sentiment that is going to be a little bit wider this way or longer this way, I'm going to use Here's to You. So let me pull that out. I think I pulled out all the sentiments except that one. Okay, and then this card base that I'm using, this is Pacific Point. This is also a retired color. So since we don't have that ink anymore, or I don't have that ink anymore, I'm going to use Azure Afternoon, which is pretty close. Not quite as dark, but I think it'll pass. So we've got Here's to You. And that will just go right on the front here. And then we're going to build our little scene on top of that. So I've got this little coral reef. Little, it's kind of big. It's going to take up the whole front of the card here. And then I've got a little dolphin. Maybe you should be swimming up here, take up some room. Okay, so I'm just going to, I think I'm just going to glue this down because it's so large. So if I pop it up, I think it's going to get caught on stuff that's trying to go in the envelope. So we're going to put that right here. And then we'll pop up our little dolphin. Okay. And then you've just got the insert. I'm going to do a happy birthday. I covered up my ink and then couldn't find it. This is what I do all the time. Move things around on the desk and you cover them up and then you're like, where did I put that? All right, let's get this centered. Happy birthday. All right, and that will go on the inside. So that's card number 1. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory. And there you go. Okay, so card number 2 is the one with the little card on the front. So again, you'll have a card base that is 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. I'm going to go ahead and put my insert in there. Of course, you could stamp on this and decorate your insert. I don't usually do that when I'm doing this live, just for time's sake. Alrighty. So then this is again my mat, which is 5 1/4 by 4, and my another A piece that is 3 3/4 by 5, and we'll just mat that. go. That will go right to the front of your card. And all the magic is in the little mini card. Okay, so the little mini card, the dimensions are on the PDF, but it is 2.5 by 4.5. And then we scored it at 2 1/4. Okay, so that's the measurements of the little card. And then we used the A piece and the little D piece for this. So you've got the option, you can flip it over or you can use the front side, whichever you like for your design. And that's going to get mounted right on the front. I might have forgotten to cut the little piece for the inside. And then that will go right on your card front. So the little piece for inside is 2 by 2 1/4, and I do believe that I forgot to cut that. So we're just going to skip that part, and we're just going to decorate the front here. So I have a little, so I think he's a stingray. And I've got some little coral that we can add to the front of the card. So we'll glue one of these down. And then I've got some mini dimensionals. Pop this one up in front of that. And we need a really skinny piece here. So when I need a really skinny piece, I usually just cut the side of my dimensionals and get just a sliver, which is a little tough to work with, but you can do it. Where there's a will, there's a way. Okay. And oops. That one can go in front there. And then we'll pop up our little stingray. I think that's what they're called. It could be stingray, it could be a skate. Okay, and then he'll just go right on the front there. All right, so there's the one with the little mini card on the front. And again, the measurements are in the PDF. Okay, so I'll put that one aside. Okay, so the next one that we were going to do is with the C piece. And this one has your, and oh, look, I already stamped one. I forgot what I prepared and what I didn't prepare. Okay, so this one we're doing a matte, and we're going to do a C piece. And I couldn't decide, because I hadn't cut the paper, whether I wanted the blue on blue. That's not bad. And I've got this little hammerhead shark here. Or whether we wanted to give it a little bit more contrast and do this on white. With the little shark. I don't know, I kind of like the blue on the blue. Well, let's do that. We'll be a little different. So what this is Azure Afternoon that I'm going to put onto my Pacific Point. Pacific Point was such a beautiful color. I really liked it. Okay, so we'll just get that mounted on there. And that'll go right on your card front. with your glue. Right here. Okay, and then we'll get our hammerhead shark on there. He's a very cute shark, so not threatening at all. Which is a good thing. I think this set is perfect for like children's birthday cards. I think this is a nice little set. Okay, we'll get that guy on there. And this is totally not the right color. All right, let's restamp this. I think I pulled out Make a Splash. We'll just flip that over and let's stamp it in Azure Afternoon. Hi, Lorraine. Hi, Sharon. Thanks for jumping in. Okay. Oh, that's better. I was having a hard time because it wasn't matchy-matchy. And this is one of the reasons I love Stampin' Up, because everything does match. You can make it match because they have the same colors in their ink and their paper. All right, and so then we'll just get this right on the front here. And we'll get our card insert. Oop. Well, I made it through 2 cards without my glue going crazy. There we go. Okay, so that's card number 3 that uses that C piece. And then your second C piece was this one with the mat. This time is a little bit bigger and was in the middle of the card. And your C piece is going to be a little larger, a little bit longer than the mat. So it should be hanging over a little bit on the top and a little bit on the bottom. So that's what we're going to do there. And to try to make it even, I use my grid paper, line up my mat on my grid paper, and then I will see if I can get this to hang over about the same amount. Oops, I'm not in the middle. On either side, here and here. Okay, so it should be fairly even. And then that will go on the front of your card. There we go. Okay, and for this one, I brought, again, the little reef and the little dolphin. I think I have some fish. Let's do some fish. Because I've got the reef in the Calypso coral, we could maybe add some little Calypso coral fish. Oh, I think he's upside down. All right. Give it a little bit more to look at. There we go. And our little dolphin. And again, I had a sentiment that was already stamped, when I have sentiments that I've made with a stamp set and I don't use them, I put them inside the stamp set. So then I surprise myself when I go to use the stamp set. I'm like, look at that, I already have a sentiment. But I'm not sure it's going to match. These fish are just big enough for a dimensional there. And this little guy, oops, hiding underneath the reef. Yeah, I'm not sure this one matches either. So let's see what we've got here. I have, these might be a little bit too long. Got a little oval. That might be cute. And that's all I have. Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. One moment. Okay, so here's my little, I don't know if you have one of these, but this is my little stash of things that I have pre-punched or pre-die cut and haven't used. They all go in this little envelope. So when I'm doing a live, if I need a sentiment, I can say, well, let's see what I have. All right, this one might work, but we need a smaller sentiment. How about my friend? Okay, we will stamp in Azure Afternoon again. And then add that to the front with some dimensionals. Okay, so there we go. Now we just need to put our piece inside, and that's not big enough. That's the wrong one. There we go. My glue just wants to make me crazy. It's because I'm not putting it back upside down so that it can stay at the top. There we go. There we go. So that's the second one with the C piece. So we have this little B piece left over. And then what I did with that one, if you'll remember, we did a landscape card and matted that. Okay, so we'll put our insert in first. And then we'll decorate the front. So your little B piece is 2 inches by 3 3/4. So your mat will be 2 1/4 by 4. And again, I brought white and Azure Afternoon. I think I'm going to go with white this time. Let's make it a little different. Oh, look at that pretty piece. I like that color combination. Whoops. So we'll just line that up in the middle. That'll go right on your card. And then you'll just decorate that. So I've got this little die. I thought I had 2 of those. How did I lose one already? Well, somehow. I'll find it later. All right, so we'll just put one of those on. I've got like a little piece of a reef. Whoops. I was going to have my little lobster hiding in between there, but I lost the other one. All right, so we'll just put him here. It's a little dimensional. And then we've got a little piece of coral that I'm going to stick down with just some glue. Oh, maybe I can use this one on here because I've used, that's not bad. I think it's cute. We're doing it. Okay, so that is the card with the little bee piece. Yeah, over here. Okay. So these are the cards from tonight. The two A pieces. One just matted with some dies and one with the little card on the front. And then you've got your two C pieces. This is the B piece and the little D piece went on your little mini card. Okay, so that's it. I hope you guys will download or print out the template and try it. I think it's got some good size pieces here for you to make some nice cards. I look forward to seeing what you do. Of course, you can change the orientation of the pieces and just go crazy and do your own thing. All right, so I will tonight make the other set of cards with the other side of the paper, and I will put those up on my Facebook page as well so you can see those. And I hope that you will try the template, and I hope that you will post the cards that you make. I would love to see them. All right, let's turn this back around. There we go. There we go. Okay, so that's it for me tonight, guys. Thanks so much for watching. It's too much light. Thanks so much for watching. There will be, if anyone watches on Friday, there will be no Stamp and Sip on Friday because I will be in Maine. My husband is having a reunion with some of his high school friends, and that's where we will be. So hope for us that we get some good weather and we don't get rained on this weekend. And you guys all have a great weekend and stay crafty, my friends. I'll see you next week.